Hey friends, do you own a boat and thinking to yourself, all right, should I keep my boat at a marina or should I keep it at my own dock, potentially on a lift? Well, that's exactly what we're going to discuss and even debate in today's video. All right, I am with the professor himself, Captain Ron Edwards, and we have actually both had to answer this very question in our boating lives.
Right.
And so I think this is going to be a fun video. I wish someone had talked to me about these things when I first got into the boating world. So for yourself, let's start with marinas, Professor. If you had to say the advantages of keeping your boat at a marina in lieu of keeping it at your, let's say, your home on a dock, what would you say those biggest advantages are?
First off is your accessibility to like fuel and ice. And because, boat's gonna burn the fuel no matter what. And depending on your proximity to the marina, it could actually cost you a lot of money to go get fuel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're right here in Louisetta, Virginia. I've got a marina literally across the way. Not so hard. Most people don't have that same convenience factor. And so you've got to plan a lot better in terms of, trips and when you're gonna stop, when you're gonna get your fuel, etc. Like that's a big one. And so definitely, I think that's a big advantage of having in a marina. What else comes to mind?
Well, they have like facilities for like cleaning your fish, like fish cleaning table. Not you can't install one of them on your own dock, but some marinas even have, fish cleaners there where they'll clean your catch for you. And, some of our marinas here in the Northern Neck don't have that, but as you get bigger marinas, down south and stuff like that, they do.
Yeah, especially offshore when you're talking about,
Right.
If you load up on, a dozen yellowfin tuna, you're gonna be a while if you do that yourself.
Right.
Could be nice to have a cleaning house right there.
Yeah, and a couple other things too is if you keep your boat at a marina and the marina has a service department, they're more than willing to get to your boat before they do some random stranger that calls them.
That can be a big deal.
Yeah.
Like hypothetically, you've got your friends for this weekend trip you've been waiting to do and suddenly engine doesn't start.
Right.
If you're at a marina, the chances that, one of your buddies there at the marina and one of the service techs could look at it really quick with you.
Right.
There's a much greater chance, and it could save your weekend versus trying to figure it out right there in your own house.
It could. And another point is like the social atmosphere there. You get to meet new people that are walking around the marina. You get some insight. You get to see what other people are catching, with their fish, what they're bringing in every day. And it's just a whole different social atmosphere.
I mean, this is the one I think is, to me, it's the biggest argument to some degree for keeping your boat at a marina, because when you see somebody coming in after the day's catch and you're able to immediately say, how'd y'all do today?
Right.
And they're able to say, see, you're gonna get intel in that moment that you're not gonna get on the Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. You might not get the truth, but you're gonna get something.
You're gonna get something.
Right.
And they can't, if they're bringing out a bunch of fish and you can see the fish, they can't lie about the fish.
Right.
Right? Now, they might lie about where they caught it, but they're more likely to be honest with you if you're by yourself and you're like a little kid right there or something with you and like, man, could you just point me in the right direction?
You put the sad sob story on.
I think the social element is a big deal.
Yeah,
so,
that could work against you too now. The man beside you could have a great day and have loads of fish, and when you get back, you have a big zero, and the people you took fishing are like, damn, he caught a lot of fish today. What happened to us?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, from a advantages of being at a marina, I would say those, certainly are some of the biggest advantages. And the other one, just if you don't want to spend the money, boom, drop a bunch of money on a lift, or if you don't have a home in that location, obviously that's going to be a good option for you. Yeah. There's some disadvantages though.
There are.
So what would you say some of those biggest disadvantages are?
The cost is probably number one, because it costs a lot of money every month to keep your boat there. And, there's a pile of disadvantages. It all depends on how you want to look at them. If your boat is at home and you get back from a day of fishing, you can run inside, take a nap real quick, come back out later on that afternoon, clean your boat up, and it's always right there. It's right. You seem to do more.
You do
with your boat if it's right at your back door.
It's funny for those that don't know. I owned in the past a hot tub company, and what's crazy about using a hot tub, which is similar to a boat in some ways, is if the hot tub is immediately off your sliding glass door when you open the door versus 20 feet away, you're gonna use it 2 to 3 times more just by stepping out to the deck and having the hot tub right there.
Right.
And so in the context of a boat, if you're just sitting there in your yard and you're looking out at the water and you see some fish hitting, some birds hitting, and you're like, oh my goodness, because this is happening to me here. I'm looking at my boat right there. You can't turn that down, man. No. It's boom, and you can go right there. There's just something, like, you can be a lot more impromptu if you keep it at your house than if it's at a marina, especially, once again, a lot of this that we're talking about depends on how far the marina is away from where you actually live, because that makes a difference. Any other major disadvantages you would say to the marina?
Well, like theft, you know what I mean? You're a little hesitant on leaving all your expensive fishing gear right there on the boat, you know what I mean? And if you have it right here at your back door and somebody has to walk by your house to get on your dock, you're gonna know. Especially
if you have security, ideally if it's at your house, you've got security cameras pointed towards your dock so that like, I know I've got a camera that's looking at this boat. I'll travel the world and I'm still looking at my boat, right? And I know if anybody else is looking at the boat. At a marina, I think marinas have gotten better with their, anti-theft, their theft prevention. But notwithstanding, it's very, very tempting when there's a nice boat with equipment right there, or you see a lot of people, they see some folks will just leave their gear right out, and that can come back, and it can bite you. There can be theft anywhere, but I think, that's one thing, just to look into the security of the marina that you're gonna be staying at, potentially. It certainly makes a difference. Any other big disadvantages that you can think of before we shift over to the at home?
I'm sure there's a bunch that we're missing, but those are the main.
Yeah, there's always some that we're potentially missing. You could have backlogs, you could have long commitments that you don't, you might have to sign a lease for more than the time that you want because of demand. So there's all these factors that come with it. Let's talk about it at home, and of course some of this depends on, do you have it in a floating versus on a lift? And obviously we're gonna put the context of this video on a lift. Let's assume that you have a lift for a second, and that's gonna make everything better in terms of having it on lift at your place. Biggest advantages, and we've discussed them a little bit, to having the boat at your own location, your home, let's say, or your second home, whatever it is. What would you say?
Well, for one thing, you don't have to paint the bottom if you have a lift there at your house. You know what I mean? If you've got a brand new boat and doesn't have bottom paint on it, you don't have to worry about painting the bottom.
Yeah, if you look at this boat here, the Steiger, the reason why it's got bottom paint is because for the first 3 years of owning it, I had it at a marina where it wasn't lift kept. Now, a lot of the marinas these days, folks, have shifted towards having lift-based slips, I don't know if the proper way to say that, versus just having regular old-fashioned slips where, you're under roof and it's sitting there floating on the water. And I tell you, like, it's great. Like, I had this for a year on a lift at the marina, way better than when it was floating, because to your point, we're talking less maintenance on the bottom, and you're just not worried about things.
Not worried about your bilge pumps failing, your battery's going dead, anything.
I think, just to me, one big advantage, which this might sound silly, Professor, but I'm gonna say it anyway, of having it at your own house, is it's fun to look at your boat. You know what I'm saying?
It is,
it is so enjoyable, just, sitting there and just looking at the boat, sunset. I just don't think there's anything better when I wake up in the morning and I look out and I see that boat on my dock, and it just is very satisfying, man.
And another great, just like you touched on before, if you wake up at 6 in the morning and all of a sudden there's not a breath of air moving, and you look at your watch, and you're like, I got an hour.
I got a window, and I can take it.
Let me go real quick. You're not going, if you've got to drive 5, 10, 15 minutes to the marina, that's 30 minutes out of that, and you're like, oh, I don't have enough time to go now.
I think the bottom line is, on the advantages, you will use the boat more if it is at your own location. I think that's definitive.
You have a lot of upfront initial costs, like the dock, running the power down here, getting the lift installed. But if you're going to be a lifetime boat owner, it pays for itself.
Yeah, so like this is a 20,000 pound lift, I believe here. And I'm sure it was, you know, more than $10,000 once we figured in the electrical work and the shore power and all that goes in with it. But once the expense is done, it's done,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about it. One disadvantage potentially of having it at your own location is, let's say a big storm is coming and there's concerns. The marina, they'll just take it out for you, right? Whereas if it's at your house, unless you know somebody, you might not have that ability to quickly move it. And sometimes these storms like come out of nowhere and quickly you got to take it out of the water.
Right, especially if this is like a summer home for you or something like that and you live 2 or 3 hours away, you know what I mean? It's, you know, if you kept it at a marina, they'd be more likely to put it in dry storage for you.
Yeah, in our case, folks, obviously we've got Speechless at Pirates Cove Marina, and we've enjoyed that. It's been great. I'm sure it'll always be there because, you know, just commercially, just for the charters, and just we love being around people. I think even if we had our like a place on the water in the Outer Banks, we would still have it right there, just because the social element is so great. Here where we are right now in the northern neck of Virginia, a little bit different. And so as we close this out, for let's say you have a non-sport fisher, right? Just a regular center console production boat, let's say, Professor, you know, whatever, you know, 18 to, you know, 30 feet or whatever it is. And let's be hypothetical, and let's say the marina is within 5 miles of your house.
Right.
If you had to make the choice, you could put it, you had a waterfront property, you could put it on your dock, or you could keep it at the marina. Which one are you going to choose?
I'm going to keep it at my dock at my house.
And the biggest reason is?
Just because it's the availability, the accessibility, and just being able to go. And like you said, waking up every day looking at it.
It is fun to look at that boat, and hopefully this was helpful to you. And so if you're in that debate right now, like we have been, hopefully this clarifies what direction you might go, and you might want to try both. I mean, that's exactly, you know, what I did in my situation. And I'm glad we have this Tiger Craft here today, but you know, it was a good time when we had it at Louisetta Marina as well.
You know, and one thing too that I've seen some people do is in the summertime, they keep their boat at their house on the lift when they're here every weekend and stuff like that. But then when it comes time, you know, when they're not using it, but maybe once a month or something like that, they'll move it to a marina and put it in dry storage.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's a win-win.
If you have a local marina that'll work with you like that, it could work.
Yeah,
out.
we didn't even talk about some of the dry storage and some of the like you have a boat in, let's say, Florida, you know, and you know, you just make a phone call and that boat is waiting for you, floating at the dock, ready to go, engine on.
Can be fueled up and iced up too.
Yes, and so obviously you're gonna spend the most doing that.
Yeah.
But I tell you, if you want to live the easy boating life of just phone call and, you know, park your car and run out to the boat and jump in it and take off and then just leave it right there.
Right.
You know, it's like that Uber experience in many ways. So that's another one we didn't really talk about. Hopefully this is helpful to you. That's what this channel is all about. And we always appreciate it when folks like you comment and say, you know what, you guys are a little bit different. It's not all about the show. I'm actually learning something as I'm watching some of these videos. And so hope it helps you as well. Make sure you like it, subscribe, become a part of the community, and come fishing with this guy right here, slip number 92 at Pirates Cove Marina, Manioc, North Carolina. And until the next time, everyone, stay salty.